But yeah, all right. Let's talk about The Crow, man. Me and Brayden, we heard. Let's actually look at the Rotten Tomatoes right now.
Yeah,
This movie, going
pull
into
this
it,
up.
yeah, we were like, this movie's gonna be terrible. We actually even contemplated not watching this film because of the ratings. We're like, we can go watch the whatever the other one was, and and eventually, Brayden was like, let's just go watch this one because I want to see how bad it is. I want to laugh at it. We're like, all right, bet. So we went and watched The Crow, and
Mhm.
let's see. Oh, come on, why are you not pulling up? Sorry, I'm trying to. Here we go.
You're okay, my friend.
23% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, it does have a better rating than The Crow City of Angels, which is a 14%. But 23% on Rotten Tomatoes, dude. It was lower when we went and watched it. It was like, wasn't it like 10 or something stupid? And we're like, what are we doing? Um,
What are we
what are
doing?
we doing here? We went and watched this film, and I really enjoyed it, and Brayden really enjoyed it. I really like this film. Now let me go ahead and preface by saying this: me and Brayden have still not seen the original Crow. I do want to see the original
Yes.
Crow. Brayden wants to watch the original Crow. So the people that I've talked to that have seen this film and did hate the remake or the reboot, whatever you want to call it, they don't like it because they keep comparing it to the original Crow.
And
And
dude, the face. Sorry, not to cut you off. I
no, you're
posted
good.
on Facebook within seconds. Logan knows. That's why he's laughing. Within seconds, so many people storming my page like this is ridiculous. Like this is ridiculous. This is stupid. Da da da. I was like, bro, why? Why? If you maybe if you compare it to the original, sure, I understand. But I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to solely base it off of itself. And even I do that with every remake. You know what I mean? You have to because you can't. Of course, you're going to compare, but in terms of when you're going to review a movie for itself, what it is, you can't compare it to something else. You have to look at it as this is somebody taking it on for the first time. This is their way of doing it, and this is how they're. You know what I mean?
Yep, yep,
Even if the original's better, I can sit here and say the original still might be better, but this is a good movie still. You know what I mean?
yeah. It, it's
Why
it,
can't
Right. Why can't
why
both
can't
be
we do
true?
that?
Yeah. Why can't both be true? That's society nowadays in general, though. You know what I'm saying? People can't play the middle ground. They have to lean toward one way or the other. You know what I'm saying? It's something that we deal with in everyday life, no matter what it is. But yeah, this film, when it comes to reboots and remakes, it's something solely based off preference, man. Like and expectation. And because, like, for example, man, you know, I'm a big fan of the original Nightmare on Elm Street, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then people always talk about the remake that they did in 2010. It is almost a shot for shot remake of the original film, just obviously, you know, updated, you know, visuals, right, and sounds and everything, and CGI and all that. And people hate this movie, hate that film. And I know some people that have seen that movie before they saw the classic Nightmare on Elm Street, and they like that movie more than the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
So it's and personally, what do I think after like seeing both, but seeing the original first? I think the new one's not a great movie. It's not great, but it's still fun, and you can't compare it to that original film, man. You just can't do it. And I'm a diehard Nightmare fan, a diehard Halloween fan, and they've done remakes. Now there are certain elements that you shouldn't mess with, right?
Yeah.
You know, and a good one with, like, you know, for example, the Halloween franchise. Let's jump to that. Rob Zombie did a remake, and he made Michael talk. You can't have him scream die and, you know, whatever. That's stupid. That's just dumb, dude. You know what I mean? Literally, a
Yeah.
bearded, homeless looking Michael, you know, goes in and just screams die, you know, whatever, and tries to kill Loomis.
Die.
Die. So stupid. So it's literally what he says, dude. In the second Halloween, Rob Zombie goes, dies. Like, what are we doing? His mask is ripped off. So there's certain elements that you shouldn't do, but the Crow franchise in general, like Brayden was talking about after,
Mhm.
every film is a different character. So tell me why you're comparing this to the original story when even the sequels had nothing to do with the original story.
No, seriously. Like,
With the Halloween
come on,
franchise,
Dak.
facts, with the Halloween franchise, the reason you can criticize some things is because there's a connection to that original film, right?
Yeah.
If this was a sequel to the original film, you have every right to criticize certain things. But these are brand new characters and a brand new story. Brand new story, very different story. You look at the original Crow. The original Crow is about this husband and wife, whatever, they killed on their anniversary of their death. The guy comes back, whatever. It's very different than this film, and I think that it's super unfair to the creators of this film, the actors, the writers, the producers, to compare when I guarantee they went in this not wanting to one up the original or dishonor the original. They wanted to create something new and fresh, and they did that. And people get so mad when remakes do a shot for shot remake, but then they get mad when someone does something different. And that's kind of my point. Is like there's a lot of factors that go into this, and I just feel like instead of seeing those different factors, people just jump to a conclusion and hate on something because it has the same name as an old movie that they really liked. So I went on a little rant there, but it's a very fine line to walk on, and it's all about perception.
Yeah.
But I'll let you go, Brayden. I did my rant.
The thing, I don't know. I think how you have to look at this. Again, I said it already. It's like there's new people taking on a new adaptation of this. It's kind of like when It movie came out. I liked it. The new It, like I liked it. I never saw the second one, which is actually like a really sad thing on my part because I actually really wanted to. I liked the original It. Like you know what I'm saying? Like the adult version. I saw the kid version.
Yeah. The
Love the kid version. Yeah. And then comparing it, like you can compare it to the original. I think there's qualities about the newer one that are better than the original. Do I probably like the original better? Yeah, probably. But there's a lot of things I still like about this newer one, and I think are great. It goes the same way with this Crow movie. I think there's definitely more of a what are they called? Like a hidden group behind the Crow. What are they called?
What do you mean?
You know, basically just groups of people that like find not bad movies. It's not a bad movie, but find movies like they cult around a movie. You know what I mean? Like a film cult kind of thing. Like they push a certain narrative. Yes.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's because I'm trying to think of like that happens a lot of the time with like bad movies that aren't like some people are like, no, this is one of the greatest horror movies ever, and then a lot of people are like, I don't know, like a cult classic kind of thing.
Yeah,
I think The Crow's like that more than like a lot of movies. I think a lot of people like who rally around behind it are like truly like super like heavy about it. You know what I mean? They feel way about it. And so it's like making this new adaptation. I think people, I don't know. I just think people are comparing it too much. And I think when you look at the acting, I think the acting was phenomenal. I think the relationships between Skarsgård and Twigs was incredible. I think the fight scenes were awesome. And again, I've never seen the original, so I'm not comparing it to the original. I'm not saying that this movie is better than the original, but coming at it blindly, face value, I liked it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of, it's put me in perspective. That's how I feel like I should watch a lot of other movies that are kind of like revivals or something like that, because it's like, why are we comparing? You know what I mean? Right. I understand you're allowed to do it, but at the end of the day, don't let that comparison undertake the value. You can't just be like, oh yeah, this movie sucks because it's not as good as this one. That's dumb. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like I said, there's certain films that you have to do that for, or there's elements of the film that you have to do that for, like direct sequels, right? That are continuing a story. Or when you, like I said, with the Halloween remake, where you take the same exact character and do something that just isn't like, but this is not the same character. It's something different. It's a retelling, and I think that people have to realize that. And so I'm with you 100% right there, man. And it is a very different type of film though too. Like, it looks like from what I've heard from other people, the original Crow is very action based. Like it's all fight sequences, you know what I mean? Crazy sequences. This film is it's a romance film. It's literally throughout the whole time, the theme is about love and the impact of love. And the first hour of this film, there's no fighting scenes. It's strictly this relationship. Well, there is like some action, sequences, but it's strictly this relationship between what were their names? The actresses Twigs.
actress is Twigs and Bill
and
Skarsgård.
Bill
I can't
Skarsgård.
think of
We'll
their.
just go with their names.
It's Sherry, and I can't think of his name.
I'll look it up. I'll look it
I
up.
can't think of the main character's fucking name.
Sorry, 1 second. Eric and Shelley. Eric and
Shelley, not Sherry. Shelley.
So so yeah, you got Eric and Shelley. The whole first hour of this film is all about their relationship, and people were like, "Oh, why this is so stupid? It's boring. I was going to sleep." And I'm like, I like character development. I like stories developing. I like having a deeper connection with characters. And I feel like with the original film, it starts out with them dead or whatever. There's no build up to them dying. There's no care for them dying. Does that make sense? Like, you don't really care for their relationship as much because you didn't see it start. And I think what's great about this film is you see that relationship blossom. You see that love grow. And that love that you've seen grow with your own two eyes for the first 40 minutes of this film, 45 minutes of this film, is now the center. It's the nucleus of this film, right? It's the heart, pun intended, and soul of this film. And yeah, man, I really, really enjoyed that aspect of it. The romance part, I think, made it great. And that's and here's another thing. The shift of Eric into the Crow is even more fun to watch because you've seen his character go from this guy to this guy to this thing, this force of nature, dude. That's just so badass, you know?
Yeah,
so,
right.
I think it adds more to the story personally. Like I said, I haven't seen the original Crow. I'm not saying you need to, like, I get that you can still care about characters and care about that relationship even if you do kill them off early, because as the story goes on, you could reveal new things, and maybe that's what they did in the original Crow. But for this film, I really enjoyed having that build-up, and I think that the build-up wasn't too long, wasn't too short. Maybe could have been a little bit shorter, but like I thought even then it was rushing a lot of things. So I think it was really solid, and I think it contributed to the rest of the film when Eric becomes the Crow.
I agree. And I think the point that you made at the beginning of this serves actually, like, because I've never even thought about this, but I think it actually makes me like the movie a lot more. This movie is a romance. That is, like, there's no way around it. And I think maybe that's why people are pissed off, because they're like, oh, this is all like, they're like, because I don't know if you mentioned this yet, but the fact that it was like he got into the Crow, you know what I mean? He got he became the Crow much faster in the originals. In this film, it's more of an elongated process, but I think that was to build on the relationship and the love and actually make it more impactful. Because if you ask Logan, if you recorded it by the end of this movie, and this is a spoiler warning, anybody right here, if you don't want to skip for the next like minute, what happens is, you know, Shelly comes up, he gets her, and then they are hugging and they're talking. And she's like, I fell asleep, like, I thought I lost you. And then he starts getting pulled down because he made the deal. And if you looked at me at the end, I was sitting there like this. Like, literally at the end of the movie, I was sitting there like this, like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And it was just because they did such a good job at genuinely building that relationship between them. I was so heartbroken. I told Logan, I was like, it's not a bad ending. It's just not a happy one. And that's okay. Yeah. And I thought, honestly, it probably served the story better because you got a reaction out of me. I'm sitting there with my hands in my head like, no, bro. Like, no fucking way that just happened.
Yep.
And I think that has a testament to show it was a romance. You know what I mean?
Right.
It had the action that you would like from a cool, crazy action movie, but it was a romance at heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. No, that's what I was explaining. Like, I think that build up for some people was really boring because they wanted to see the action based stuff, and then when they got pushed with the romance stuff, instead of digesting what they were seeing on screen, they were just wanting and itching for that fighting stuff. Which is why there's one big sequence in this film where he goes through the movie theater, and there's a play going on, and he just kills probably like 35 people. And just goes through guys, dude. I mean, ripping their arms off, dude. You know, it gets gory fast,
It gets
dude.
gory,
It
bro.
almost gets campy gory. And it's almost like it was like I guarantee a testament to the old films. I guarantee that's what that scene was, because every single person, even if they hated this film, they all went back to that sequence and was like, this sequence was it. This sequence was amazing. It's the only sequence that we liked that made sense. So I guarantee The Old Crow is one of those action-packed movies that are a little campy, but it's a fun ride, like a John Wick. You know what I'm saying? And it
Yeah.
was like John Wick before John Wick. And I think, like, here's my thing. Let's say they, like, imagine, Brayden, they remake John Wick 20 years from now. 40 years from now, let's stay with the actual Crow timeline. Sorry, 30 years. And, we're 50 years old, right? And we go to watch this movie, and it's the new John Wick. We walk in, and the first hour is this love romance between this guy and his girlfriend, and then they finally get to the action-based stuff. We're not really gonna like that. We're probably, if we're a fan of the original John Wicks as we are, we're probably gonna be like, all right, dude, let me see Keanu Reeves, or this, Walmart Keanu Reeves go in and beat some people's ass. Like that. That's kind of our mindset. So, like, I get what people are saying. I get why they think that, but it's just, once again, as hard as it is, you're gonna have to take a step back and really appreciate this film for what it is, and that's gonna be hard to do because, like I said, if they do a John Wick remake and make it a romance comedy, or not romance comedy, sorry, a romance action-packed film, I'm probably not going to be a big fan of it either, and I'm going to point to the action sequences as the best parts of the film. So I think that's kind of what they're viewing it as, and I totally understand where they're coming from. But with me, like I said, you just gotta appreciate this film for what it is, man. And yeah, and the action sequences to me were just the cherry on top. I thought that just made the movie even better, dude. And they came at the right times. That last one was just, it was like 15 minutes. It was probably a 15-minute sequence. I don't know how long the choreography took. Probably it's probably 6-7 months of him just going through, just going bah bah, like just. You can go. He did everything you could possibly do to kill someone in that little 15-minute span. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I think it just added more. And here's something else too. My big takeaway from this film, my favorite thing, was not the action. As cool as the action was, it was the romance aspect of it and how it was connected to these characters. And I think that's why we have the stance we have on it.
And that's the thing. I truly, I'm going to make this comment. I feel like this movie proves, the attention span of people has just quite literally shot down and plummeted, because this movie is driven off the personal connection between these two characters. It's really weird how Shelley isn't in the movie for a good portion, but it always feels like she's the centerfold of the movie. And that's because they really put a focus on the characters and the connection and the story over anything else. And so, I don't know. I think it was a great movie. It's going to go higher than a lot of movies that we've seen this year, and I know we might be the crazy podcast that thinks that, but I don't know.
If someone brings me a
crazy.
if someone brings me a good reason, I haven't seen a good reason on why to hate on this film. Literally, I haven't seen anything. Like, there's little things, sure. There's little aspects to this film that are, that does. There's some lines here and there. There's some moments that you're like, okay. There's some things that he does where like, what are you doing, right? That's basic movie action-packed stuff. They make stupid decisions. They do stupid things. At the beginning, it's like, yeah, let me take a shower first, and they don't take a shower. Stuff like that's kind of stupid. But
yeah,
it's
like, you stink. Come back.
Yeah, I know, it's so stupid. But here's another thing too. This is one of the only films this year that we've seen that I haven't been like, okay, what time is it? Literally, not once. Like, it was crazy. I was so invested in this film. We've watched some other great films this year, but I can't think of more than two that I was this invested in, and then I didn't check my phone a couple times to see what time it was. As weird as that sounds. And I was just invested. I loved it, and I thought this film is very underrated, overhated. And if someone watching this right now, because I might post this as a separate movie review actually on the channel. If you guys can come to me and give us a good reason on why this film is not at least an 8 out of 10, please give me a reason. Please.
Yeah,
the villain.
Without
talk about the
comparing
villain.
it to the original.
Without comparing it to the original. The villain was great. He was menacing as hell. He was great. He was awesome. So it's like, I don't get... Now look, this movie also did have some like ritual stuff involved, the whispering in the ear. That's probably the worst part of the film for me because you lose a little bit of that grounded take. But this guy is a dead man walking, bro. You got to be like, I mean, come on, dude. Like, you know what I mean? You got to, like, I get,
Yeah.
and you know me, Brayden. I'm someone who, I love grounded films. You know what I'm saying? But, like, with this movie, man, come on. Like, that's a weird excuse. Do I love it? No. But do I think that it hurts the film terribly? No. I just prefer they
No.
would have went a more grounded take with it, maybe like Kingpin or something. You know, that would have been a cool approach because he felt like a Kingpin character. Like that guy could play Kingpin 100%. But I don't feel like it hurt the movie or took me out of it in any way, which is weird. It's weird that it didn't take me out of it, but that is probably the worst part of the film. Other than that, I can't think of any major thing that affected me. I thought the ending was emotional. I thought it was amazing when they're bringing her back to life, and which let's if you want to expand on that, let's talk about what we were saying walking out of the theater. Like, was this all a fake thing like we were talking about? So do you want to expand on anything else before we dive into that rabbit hole?
Uh, I'm trying to think. I don't know. I'm very adamant on the fact that I think this was a good movie. I don't really think. I don't think it should be getting the hate that it's getting. And one thing in particular for me that like this is my last thing because then we can go on. Thing that really stood out to me is like this how the story translated a lot, like the shots of the movie, like I don't know, were like so I don't know, the shots really felt like it was like a book almost. Like we were telling a story. Like half the time he'd get pushed over and like, go slow motion and he'd transfer into the new reality. And then like we would follow these bird eye shots of the crow because the crow was like the guidance of the whole movie. And I don't know, it felt like a book on screen. And I think that's what you should always aim for in a movie. And not saying like that's the you know what I mean, the what am I trying to say? That's what it has to be. But it's like a good book has a good story. It has layers. It has something to follow. And this movie gave us that. You know what I mean? It really between the cinematography and like the people and just the underlying. I think that's what I was trying to get to. What I really like is the underlying tones and layers that this movie has because there are so many. We were talking about on a second watch how like this movie I feel like could even get better. Like starting to like realize more and visualize more and I don't know. And especially after going and watching the original, I want to go see this again so I can compare. That way I will compare now because I've seen the movie now and I know how I feel about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I guess my last input on it. I just feel very adamant about it.
Yeah. No, I agree with everything you said. Everything you said. The one thing about this film that me and Brayden were really confused on is what exactly is the time frame? They actually do die when they get the plastic bags around their head and they can't breathe.
Yes.
And then an hour and a half goes, not an hour and a half, like an hour and 15 minutes of him being the crow goes by. And it's like a week time span. Like about a week, I would say, or at least 3 days. So
of him being the crow.
Of him being the crow, and then she wakes up from the CPR getting shocked or whatever, the shock treatment, and it looks like maybe it's daytime, so maybe a day passed, if that. So, and then she looks over and he's dead. So tell me, and then also too, he's stuck in the thing, so he can go back into the world as the crow if he wants. So tell me, is this a multi-dimensional thing? I still don't understand it. It's very weird.
Well, because I remember I brought that up in the car, and this is like, Logan, we were thinking about it, and I was like, well, just like the time frame confuses me. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, when you think about it, it's like, did the events, as Logan was just explaining, did they really happen or did they not happen? Because we go through this whole point where they're getting choked out and they die, and then we go through, like you said, days of events where he goes and he kills multiple people. That happens in real life. These people are dying. Like, this is not like he fucking showed up in the middle of a goddamn show holding two heads. Like, that happened. But then the minute that everything finished and he killed the last guy, we get transported back and we're put back in the moment they died from the very beginning of the movie. And so, did it happen? Is there a paradox, like a limbo stage? You know what I mean?
Right.
That's like between living and death. Because they kind of mentioned that. It was like they're like the people that kind of gatekeep before hell. And so it begs that question, like, did we ever, was it all kind of like a flash before, like like a flash of your eye? Like, you know what I mean? When people die, they like see other, like their memories and stuff. Like, is that like the course of which it is? And so we were just always in that moment and, you know, time kind of froze? Or did all of that really happen and we went back in time? Or did all of that happen and it's a miracle days later that she was okay? You know what I mean?
But here's
But
the
I
thing,
don't.
though. They wouldn't go. But I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I do like that thought of maybe they went back in time, but there's no way because he's still stuck in that paradox. And, which, by the way, the paramedic turns out to be the guy that he was talking to in that paradox. Very weird.
Yes.
That just made it more confusing. Me and Brayden were like, what does that even mean, dude? Anyway, so almost said Brandon Lee. He's stuck. Skarsgård's stuck in this paradox still. So that means he can still go back into the world if he wants to, correct? So then, how does that work? It's like if there's gonna be two of them in one unit, like there's so many plot holes, and if that is a big plot hole, that's a major plot hole, and that does take away from this film a little bit for me.
That's like the only thing I can say is maybe that was the transfer that they did with the deal where he transferred all the Crow abilities to him. It was kind of like he was saving him, so like they swapped places, and that's why he came back to life as something like he used to be, maybe. But I don't know. I think they did it as just the guidance, like the serving guidance. Like, of course, it's him that saves her at the end, as he's been the guy like guiding the Crow or Bill Skarsgård's character the whole movie. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So
maybe we're looking too deep into it, but I feel like we're also valid for looking into that. I feel like that's a good question, and like I said, that can probably, if that was just which they'll never admit it, but if that is a plot hole in this film, I'm just going to tell everybody right now, my ranking's pretty high, but I'm just taking it as they wanted it to be up for theories, and like they didn't really want to give it a definite answer because they want us to talk about it, just like we're doing now for a podcast. But if that was a screw up, then that drops down probably a point for me. Honestly, that probably does drop down a point because like that makes zero, like none of it makes sense. If I don't ever understand it, I'm just gonna get more and more confused. And even though the rest of the film is amazing, I'm gonna be over here like it's gonna end with that. It's like, bro, there's movies out there I love that have horrible endings, and Brayden, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Movies that you just love, you're like, it's so good. And then you get to the end, you're like, why? I'm reminded of this stupid thing. Like I should have just stopped watching.
dude, that was the devil, Late Night with the Devil, bro.
Yeah. And Nightmare on Elm Street is a great example. It's the original. It's a great film. And then at the end, the mom gets pulled through the window and it's a blow up doll. It's so stupid. Like no one likes that ending. It's because the studio did that. And that's kind of like with this. That's not as bad, but it is a big plot hole that I feel like we needed to be addressed. And I hope. And what's weird is nobody's talking about that. That's a very weird thing. Nobody, out of all the negative stuff I've heard, the one negative I have, or one of the few negatives I have with this film, is not brought up by the critics. And that's very strange to me. So maybe it's something, Brayden, that is explaining the original Crow. Maybe we need to go back and watch the original Crow. That's just something, you know what I'm saying? That is kind of like an omen to the true fans, that maybe that's why those true fans that are hating on it, because the majority of people hating on it are true fans of the original. Maybe that's why they haven't brought it up, because it makes sense to them. But it is something that is bothered me quite a bit, and I genuinely don't. That's just, I don't know. I want to hear your guys' thoughts that have seen this film. Let me know what you think. What do you think about the paramedic thing, like Brayden was talking about? Do you agree with him? What do you think the time frame is? Like, what do you think's going on? It's a very, very weird thing that Brayden, which I didn't even think about, and then Brayden brought up, and I was like, oh yeah, this dude's right. Very strange. So
this guy's cooking.
Yeah, this man. What's this man cooking? Let him cook.
Good bed.
Let us know what you guys think about that because it is kind of crazy. But other than that, man, the acting in this film's amazing. The acting's incredible in this film. A lot of nuances. Very grounded performances. Great job by the director of directing these actors. They don't ever get credit. And the cinematography, like you said, is really cool. It feels like it has its own style, right? It like maybe you never actually told me that. It does kind of feel like a book in a way. This is a film that has its own style, its own feel to it, and I think in a very unique way. And like whenever I think of The Crow, there's a specific style that I think of now, right? There's some movies that don't have that style. They just it's a generic film, even though they might be really really good. This style is just doesn't jump out at you. I think with The Crow, there's a specific style that I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I like that. I like that a lot. So I like that. The characters, the character development, the plots, awesome. The only two negatives I have, like I said before, is that ending, which is very confusing. Then there was one other thing that jumped out at me. I like the villain a lot, but which his acting and everything was amazing, but there is that element of like he does this ritual stuff that was very weird, and that kind of took me out of it a little tiny bit, but it wasn't a big negative at all. So those are the two main ones that jumped out at me, the two main negatives that I had a problem with, but everything else was either really small things that you could easily tweak or it was amazing. So that's my final thoughts on it.
Yeah, man, as I've said before, man, I think this is one of the better movies of this year. I think when you look at production value and like cinematography, acting, connection, story, yeah, this whole thing that we have at the end of the movie, yeah, it could be a plot hole. It could be us thinking too deep, not in a bad way. Like I'm not trying to like, oh, we're overthinking it, but like you know what I mean. Like that's not going to sway my whole opinion of the rest of the movie. And I think that people who are being nitpicky about this are just people who. I don't want to say glaze the original because I'm not saying that's like you're glazing it or anything, but like you're comparing it too much. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think it's worth watch. I think everyone should watch it, even if you don't like it as much as the original. I think you'll find value in it.
Yeah, I agree. And this is a film that I'm gonna rewatch again for sure, and a couple times. It's one of my favorite films of this year. So let's do a ranking. I think that did you go first last time or did I go first?
It was me.
Okay. All right.
I think.
Let's hear let's hear it then. I'm gonna go first. Yeah, this is tough. I have the main number down. I'm thinking of like a good point number.
A point. Yeah. A point something.
I'm gonna give this movie I really liked it, man. I'd probably give it like a 9.5.
Okay. I'm thinking pretty similarly. I'm kind of in the same boat. It's like it's a point. Fuck me. 9.5 is a good number. 9.5.
Yeah.
9.5. That's a good number.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like 9.6 a little too much, but 9.4 is like, I don't know. I like the movie.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I just out of a like what? As a first time watch, yeah, I think it's a 9.5. I think I was thinking 9.2 for a little bit, but I was like, I don't know. I've rated some 9.2 film. Like looking back on this film, it's really well done, man. There's so many aspects of it that I love, and I think it's so well made. There's a couple things like we talked about multiple times that I might have a little bit of an issue with, but overall I really enjoy it, and I think it's a film that that as time goes on people will appreciate more. There's a lot of films like that, and I think this is one of them. And I think it's just you're gonna have to give people time to kind of put aside their biases and put aside their ego and sit down and enjoy this film, because I think it's really solid. And if you already have seen it, definitely watch it again. Take what we said and try to view it through our lenses and let us know what you think.